From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's America. I'm freshman congressman from Missouri, Mark Alford, and I believe in America. I believe in you, and most importantly, I believe our greatest days are still ahead. You know, each week we take you behind the scenes to share the stories, the news, the legislation, and meet the great folks who are helping shape our great nation. And today, we're speaking with Kansas Senator Roger Marshall. Senator Marshall is a fifth-generation farm kid, a doctor, a business owner, devoted husband, father, grandfather, U.S. Senator for Kansas. He practiced medicine for more than 25 years, served in the Army Reserve for 7 years. He has delivered more than 7,000 babies, which gives him really a deep appreciation for the sanctity of life in their healthcare system. Before his service in the Senate, he represented the Kansas 1st Congressional District from 2017 to 2020. Right now, he's on the Senate Ag Committee, Nutrition and Forestry, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, the Budget Committee, the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. Please welcome Senator Roger Marshall. Good to see you, Senator.
Mark, it's great to be with you, and our better days are ahead of us. You know, our lives right now are just full of the 24/7 news, someone sharing something, what we're doing every day, what we had for lunch, and I shared this last week. We have lunch together every Thursday in the Senate, and a different Republican brings the lunch. It was my lunch, so you get to talk about anything. So I talked about the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, and believe it or not, during that decade on the Senate floor, a senator from Mississippi pulled a gun on a senator from Missouri, no less, and there was actually fist fights, gun fights, all sorts of things. Another one challenging another senator to a duel. They just didn't have social media. They're recording everything we did. So as tough as things are, there are better days ahead for us.
So that makes today's times look kind of calm and lame.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, no one's got caned. I'm sure you remember that story as well.
Right.
Again, this Kansas-Missouri thing going on, and because of that issue, the Kansas senator got caned by someone, I think, from North Carolina.
Mm. So you were in the House.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference that you see between the House and the Senate?
Well, Mark, right now you're running for re-election, and I'm not. Right. So the 6-year term is absolutely the big difference. I think it allows me to focus a little bit more in depth and having 6 years to get the policy through. Leader McConnell put it very well the other day, and George Washington said this first when they wrote the Constitution. The House should be like the coffee cup or the teacup, and the Senate should be like the saucer. We are supposed to slow down and check things out. The House is the gas, if you want to say it, and the Senate is the clutch. So we want to slow things down a little bit and make sure we get it right. It takes 60 votes over on the Senate to get anything, as opposed to a 50% majority on the House. So it takes 60 votes to move major legislation. So we have to work in a bipartisan fashion.
The one thing, though, I will say is being in the House, I mean, I've never been in politics before, but I am in the district all the time, and I know you are as well.
Right.
But I'm keeping my ear to the ground. I have not really stopped running.
Yep.
Because I represent the voice and the vote of the people in our district. I know you do the same in the Senate, but it is grueling having to come up for re-election every 2 years.
It is. And when I was a member of the House, I said to myself, I think the founding fathers got this wrong. They should be 4-year terms. But then when I got there, I realized that the members from the House that maybe had been there quite a long time weren't going back home. And I think, like you just pointed out, the fact that you are on the ballot every 2 years, you keep your fingers on the pulse of the people. And I think that's exactly what the founding fathers' intention was as well. But to your point, I've spent 7 years up here. I've spent 7 weekends in D.C., and I plan to keep it that way.
Mitch McConnell's retiring.
Yeah.
His leadership position. Who's going to take his place?
Yeah. You know, Mark, I don't know the answer to that. What I am looking for is someone who shares the same priorities that the folks back home do. And I'm not sure what Missourians are talking about, but I bet they're talking about the border, their safety and security. I bet they're talking about their constitutional rights, and I bet they're talking about the economy and inflation. So I want a majority leader, hopefully we're in the majority, that has the same priorities as the folks do back home, and they really need to be a person that can work with Donald Trump. He's going to be our next president,
right,
and we got to share those same priorities. And I think that, as I just described him, I think those are President Trump's priorities. He's going to keep your family safe, and he's going to work on this economy and get inflation down.
Let's talk about the border. You've been down there. I've been down there several times. It is much worse than anyone can imagine, even from television. Fox has done a great job with their aerial views of the illegal aliens who've come over into our nation. You've been down there to the processing centers. You've seen what our Border Patrol is going through and how this administration has really opened up our border and really, I think, subjected us to a national security issue. We sent H.R. 2, the Secure Border Act, over here. It's been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk since May.
Right.
It would secure the border. It really brings back everything Trump had going. Remain in Mexico. Finish the wall. Give our Border Patrol a raise. Why hasn't that been acted upon?
Right. And so, Mark, we offered that as an amendment. So we led over here. We offered that as an amendment on a must-pass piece of legislation, and it went down on party divides, that every Republican voted for it, every Democrat voted against it, and it went down. And I think what our folks back home need to make sure they understand is that Joe Biden wants these 10 million people crossing the border.
Why? Why is that?
Because that's part of his electoral college, that those people are going to increase the number of House members that a state would have. It's going to increase the amount of financial resources that go back to a state. So the financial resources here at the federal level are divvied up many times based upon the number of people in your state. And of course, the number of congressional districts is divided up based upon how many people on your state as well. This is why when the last census went around, we made a big deal. The Republican side said we should only count U.S. citizens, but we lost that as well.
I consider that almost treasonous, dereliction of duty. You're bringing in fentanyl, which has killed more than 107,000 of our fellow citizens, most of them are young people, human sex trafficking. The list goes on and on about how this president, through his open border process, and Mayorkas, who is the biggest liar since Pinocchio, in my estimation, they refused for a long time to even consider it a crisis. And now in election year, they want to do something about it. The Senate comes back with a bill that would allow up to 5,000 a day on average before we started doing anything about it. Can't we do better than that?
Well, Mark, we could, but again, my friends at the across the aisle don't want to fix this problem. They want these people crossing the border. And again, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. This is exactly what Joe Biden wants. So there's no way they're going to fix asylum. They're not going to fix parole. They're not going to do this Remain in Mexico policy. They're not interested at all. 2 million people have come in this country via parole. To your point about Secretary Mayorkas, this is why you all did impeach him, and we're going to hopefully get those orders over here next week. But this is how he's broken the law. The parole law clearly states this should be done one person at a time. And Joe Biden has paroled 2 million people, tens of thousands of people at a time. That's how they're breaking the law, one of many examples.
Just to be clear, you are on the side of America. You were on the side of Kansas. You were trying to stop illegal immigration. What did you make of the president apologizing for calling an illegal alien an illegal during the State of the Union? You were there. I was there. He yelled at us for 96 minutes. I still have PTSD from that. I think the truth came out of him in that moment where he went off script and he was under stress, and they made him go back and apologize for that.
Yeah, I'm almost speechless, Mark, to know what to say to something like that. We sit here today and we grieve the loss of Laken Riley.
Right.
And you heard her father speak this weekend to say if Joe Biden had secured the border, his daughter would be alive today. And that's absolutely true. Her murderer, alleged murderer, is a person that was paroled by Joe Biden. He comes to New York. He breaks the law there. They catch him, release him. He moves to Georgia. He breaks the law. They don't arrest him there. So that's why we're introducing the Laken Riley Act. And you guys passed it over there, right?
Right.
So you passed the Laken Riley Act, and pretty 2/3 of the House voted for it. What the Laken Riley Act does, it would say, is of an illegal alien, and that's what they are, illegal aliens. Let's get this right.
That's a legal term.
That's what they are. They're illegal aliens. If they're arrested, they will be detained until ICE comes and gets them. We brought that to the Senate floor, and our friends across the aisle voted it down once again. But all I can tell you is Joe Biden wants this problem. Laken Riley would be alive today if it wasn't for Joe Biden's policies.
There are so many cases like this. If you're listening right now and you do a Google search of illegal aliens or illegal immigrants and rape, murder, DUI crashes, your inbox will be populated with stories that will come up, because this isn't one specific case in America. This is the tip of the iceberg that has opened the eyes of Americans as to the problem of illegal aliens damaging our citizens.
Yep. You can go to our Twitter at Roger Marshall MD, and we have a list of all the Americans that have been harmed by illegal aliens. At Roger Marshall MD, Elon Musk liked it yesterday. And it is just a tragedy. To your point, Laken Riley was one of thousands. Every day, 300 Americans dying from fentanyl poisoning. I guarantee you, unfortunately, every day a Kansan's going to die from fentanyl poisoning. Every day a Missourian's going to die from fentanyl poisoning. You probably have folks in Iowa that are listening.
Yeah.
They're getting ready for a big March Madness tournament here in Iowa. But every day, and even these little small states like Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, one of them dies from fentanyl poisoning.
We'll talk about that and what we're doing in our office and what you're doing to combat. If the president is not going to shut down this border, how do we combat fentanyl in our communities in our state? Okay. We'll be talking about the Fair Labels Act, something that the senator and I have been working on to make sure that when you go to the grocery store and you want to buy a good steak, that it's not grown in a petri dish.
There you go.
We're also talking about the government spending, this late thing they dropped on us last night. They want us to approve a monstrosity of a spending bill. We'll be talking about that when we come back. So much to talk about with Senator Roger Marshall of the great state of Kansas. You're listening to Mark Alford's America. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mark Alford's America, where each week we give you a behind-the-scenes look at Washington, let you meet some of the great folks helping shape our nation. Today we're talking to Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas. We are actually in your office. Usually we do this in our office over in Longworth. It's a beautiful office in Russell.
Mark, thanks so much. Thanks for coming over. This is the Eisenhower room, if you haven't noticed. I wish your listeners could all see this, but we have some artwork here that President Eisenhower actually painted himself. His family's loaned me. And then Senator Roberts has loaned me some other artwork of his as well. Senator Roberts' chair, Senator Roberts' desk. And so try to maintain some type of tradition in here.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
A lot of tradition and a great legacy for servants in Kansas who have come here to Washington to make a difference.
Thank you.
I consider you one of those. Let's talk about the Fair Label Act.
Yeah.
You and I are working on this together. We introduced it in the House, you in the Senate. What is the Fair Labels Act?
Well, listen, customers today want to know where their food is from, and no different than their protein. We think if something is labeled meat, it should come from an animal. And you walk into a grocery store and you walk to the meat locker, they shouldn't have plant-based protein there, or at least let the customer know that. If the burger they're saying, they want to call it burger, if it came from soybeans, then they need to know it came from soybean, not from an animal. So much like I go to the Starbucks and my wife likes an iced latte with soy milk in it, right? But what I say is I'll walk up there and I'll say, I want an iced latte with soy juice. And they look at me and say, well, we don't have any soy juice. And I'll say, it's right there. And, well, that's soy milk. And I said, no, it's not. That's soy juice. And anyway, Americans deserve to know where their foods come from. And I'm proud to work with this on you. Our folks back home that raised cattle, chicken, pork, all those things that have made multi-generations of increased genetics, improved genetics.
Right.
And we're very proud of that. And we want to make sure that everything in the food market is held to the same standards of health as what we've grown in the past and what you do in Missouri, what we grow in Kansas.
And to be clear, this is not to demean in any way our soybean producers or whoever is creating this protein, because they play a vital role in protein production. Soybeans are used for for fuels and for additives and for creating products now that you can hold in your hand. But look, this goes back to how the term milk was misused over the years, and nobody got on top of it or ahead of it in time. And so you have almond milk, which is in milk. You go to France, you can't call something sparkling wine champagne unless it's grown in the Champenois region.
There you go.
You can't call something Parmesan cheese unless it's from that region in Italy. So this is protecting our producers who put the technology and the hard work and the money into growing protein from an animal.
That's right. So, I think about, again, just how much our genetics have improved through the decades, the hard work we've done at establishing healthy, lean meat, and we deserve that type of label. We're supposed to show where it was born, where it was raised, all those types of things. Happy to do it, but plant-based protein should be held to the same standard. And I just hope that people, as they look at these plant-based protein, they look at how much salt is in that in particular. I have a great concern about the amount of salt in these preservatives that they're using for the plant-based protein.
We talked a little bit about this during our break. Farm bill. You're on the Ag Committee. I'm for the Senate. I'm on the Ag Committee for the House. This has been very frustrating this year. We've had a lot going on trying to get this farm bill through. Do you think we're going to have a farm bill this year?
Mark, I don't think we will. I think that from day one, Joe Biden has declared war on the American farmer, on American energy, and that agriculture is not his priority. There, as you know, a farm bill, the backbone of a farm bill to the American farmer is crop insurance and the Title I programs, the ARC, the PLC. But 85% of a farm bill spending is on food stamps and those types of programs. So when I did my last farm bill, we budgeted $60 billion a year for food programs. We're spending $180 billion. We went from $60 to $180 billion a year. Look, we don't want anyone to go hungry. We want to help everybody we can. But meanwhile, the American farmer is just getting killed by this president's policies. Our input prices are through the roof. Input diesel fuels, fertilizers, pesticides.
This president has caused this issue.
He has caused all those. And it's almost a whole other show on how exactly he's done that. Whether it's just decreasing oil exploration, which drives up diesel prices, and the nitrogen-based fertilizers is made from natural gas, of course. Those are just, but I have a couple examples. So at the end of the day, we need increased funding for crop insurance and those reference prices because of the drive up in input prices by Joe Biden. And they're unwilling to give on this. I'm absolutely convinced that if we just extend this farm bill, which we've done until the end of September, that we'll have a better farm bill for the farmer if we wait until we have the gavel over here on the Senate, when we have a Senate majority and Donald Trump in the White House. You guys keep the House. We'll have a much better farm bill for the farmer.
One of my biggest rubs in this whole program is what you mentioned, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Number one, it's supposed to be nutritious. The second highest thing that's bought on food stamps is sugary drinks, $680 million worth of soda.
Wow.
And we have our obesity rate in America is 39.6% right now. The taxpayers are funding people on food stamps to buy sugary drinks that are going to hurt us in the Medicare space as well later on.
Yeah, Mark, people all the time ask me to save, they want me to save Medicare. I'm a physician. I came here to save Medicare. They want me to drive down the budget for the federal government, drive down the cost of healthcare costs. But to your point, nutrition is a huge component of that. We do have an obesity epidemic across this country. It is frustrating that we continue to feed that. I will tell you, on the other side of this, I'm working across the aisle with Bernie Sanders on programs that would help bring nutrition programs into our community health centers, try to coach people, teach people up on what is nutrition and healthy. So it's a challenge that we continue to face. But at the end of the day, we're trying to help our farmers. That's what the Farm Bill is supposed to be about.
If you don't have the farmers able to produce the food, you're not going to have a SNAP program. We're not going to be able to feed the world. I want to spend the last 2 minutes we have, Senator, talking about our government spending, which is out of control. We're $34.5 trillion into debt. We take in $5 trillion a year, spend $7.5. This president presented us with another crazy budget, and now they've stuck us over in the House with 24 hours to read the last 6 appropriations minibus now. I'm a no on that. Where are you as it goes to our spending in federal government right now?
Well, I'm a hell no. All right. If I can trump you, I don't know. Literally trump you. I like that one. Mark, this is the number one long-term issue that our country is facing. And right now we're borrowing money from our grandchildren. We're spending, as you pointed out, $7 trillion a year. We're only taking in $5 trillion a year. So that's, as near as I can tell, that's $2 trillion deficit each year that we're adding to. It's unsustainable. I thought what you're seeing this year is your first term, but this is the status quo. What they want to do is delay everything, force us till the night of a government shutdown and say, take it or leave it. This way, Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden get to write what's in this bill. They get to all their bridges to nowhere in this. 1,200 pages, I believe, is what this bill is. $1.2 trillion of spending. It's no way to do business. We're working very hard. To me, the hope is we are working over here on a budget process, just like you would do back in your own personal business where you do with families to start with the budget based on how much money you make not how much money you think you need.
And then work from there. That's the way. It's called a baseline budget, right?
There we go. Yeah.
Senator, it's a pleasure to get to talk with you. I look forward to working with you in the future.
Mark, thanks for your
You're a great American.
Thank
Hey, folks, thank you for joining us for Mark Alford's America. We will talk again next week. Until then, remember, I believe in you. I believe that our best days are still ahead of us. And Dr. Roger Marshall, I believe in America.
Amen.
God bless you. Have a great week. Take care.